just when we thought NBA offseason trades and any more offseason news was over, Russell Westbrook is going to be traded for a second consecutive year as the Rockets and the Wizards have come to a deal trading Russell Westbrook to the Washington Wizards and the Wizards trading John Wall and a first round pick to the Houston Rockets. Now, it's pretty clear why Houston gave up is taking a first round pick in here is because John Wall is a gamble. But let's kind of look into this for a second. It seems really interesting for this trade to occur because for a period of time it seemed like neither of these teams were getting anywhere with this negotiation. Even if they weren't really interested into it, the rumors were really there, and obviously it was a good situation for at least the Washington Wizards that John Wall wanted out, even though they wanted to try to amend this issue they were having with John Wall not wanting to be there and just trying to see, you haven't been there for 2 years. Let's try to trying to give this a shot. But instead, he just kind of clearly said that I want out. And Westbrook also stated that he wanted out. But both franchises seemed like they were going to keep their star players. But at the end of the day, they both get traded just about two weeks before the NBA season really kicks off. But it really, now it's training camp, so we're really into the season now. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really think there's a true winner to this trade except the Wizards here. But even then, let's kind of look into this trade for a second. Let's just look at John Wall and Russell Westbrook. We have to assume right now, we have to give Westbrook the benefit of the doubt here because John Wall hasn't played for 2 NBA seasons roughly. So it's been kind of, or at least 2 years it's felt like. So when John Wall was in his prime, we're talking 2016, 2017 John Wall, you're averaging about 23 points per game, 10 assists, about 4 rebounds. So obviously, prime John Wall, the best John Wall we know of. He's a better playmaker than Westbrook, much fast. He was probably faster than Westbrook, definitely could get to the rim just as well as Westbrook could. I do have to admit he was a better defender than Russell Westbrook was. I mean, I'm thinking more about OKC Westbrook and how he wasn't too focused on the defensive end because his usage rate just being very high on the offensive end was the thing for Westbrook. But for John Wall here, we have a guy who was pass first. He could get his own shot. Wasn't the best three-point shooter. This is one thing that they both sort of lack. I mean, I would say that John Wall certainly at his best better than him. But I'm not really too big. I mean, in the pick and roll, I like John Wall better. I like John Wall's defense a little bit better, but I like I like his clutch factor. I like having that kind of clutch. He's a pretty clutch guy. I like just the confidence Westbrook has. I like his offensive ability. I think he has a bigger tool bag than John Wall, despite John Wall being a pretty versatile guy. At the end of the day now, John Wall hasn't played for 1.5 seasons roughly, and that's going to affect things. That's why Houston took at least a pick in. When I think about the best other trade the Rockets could have gotten for Russell Westbrook, I don't think they were going to get anything better than this in terms of getting a guy who was proven and get a first-round pick. This in itself, I think both general managers came to a conclusion, especially the Rockets, this is the best thing we're going to get back for him. No team is going to give up an all-star, first of all, because the money doesn't really match, and secondly, it's just kind of a gamble with Russell Westbrook because you don't know what he will amount to, especially on likely going to be a bad team because that's the type of team that's going to formulate the money for him, or it would be a team where they don't really have a lot of assets now because they gave up so much to get Russell Westbrook, like the Clippers, where you might have, Kawhi, Paul George, and Westbrook. But we saw this previous season and a lot of reports recently that talent doesn't just win you a ring, and it showed clearly for the Clippers last season. Yeah, I don't really. This trade was it was pretty surprising. I'm not gonna lie. It seemed like it was just today that the GMs came together and just within a few hours, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, they came to an agreement. I think both general managers kind of talked about that. Both of them wanted to leave and get new starts. I definitely think Houston is taking a gamble here, and in terms of what James Harden is going to be like, if he's going to be there moving forward, what his presence is. I don't think he's going to get traded before the start of the season, but I wouldn't be too super surprised if it occurred. I don't think that the Houston's going to take that switch up so quickly. Houston is probably going to start with James Harden. That's the conclusion I've came up to at this point. But I want to kind of focus more in on just the Wizards offseason, because I know that Houston was looking more into getting assets, but trying to focus more on constructing a real team here. And it seemed weird because they gave up Robert Covington for some picks, and it seemed like for a second they were rebuilding, and it was like, okay, they're done. But then they started getting some good ideas and good players. They got Christian Wood, they got DeMarcus Cousins on a pretty minimum deal. So they got some guys who could, there's some big men who can actually, so they can actually play some basketball. But then, Westbrook had expressed that he wanted out, and we know James Harden has said he wants to go to Brooklyn, or at least that's what the consensus idea is among the reporters and among the media. Once again, we don't want to totally take that out of proportion, but I want to think about the offseason questions for the Wizards. So one of them was like, if Davis Bertans was going to resign, and that did occur. Scott Brooks is going to be returning, so that's kind of there. And they drafted Denny Advija. I think they're pretty satisfied with getting him at the 9th pick. And I think the Washington Wizards are going to win this trade down the line, because I don't think Houston is really looking long-term with this trade. I mean, the best case for them is that John Wall does become what we saw, or at least something resembling that 2017 John Wall days, even though he's making $40 million. There's really no level that John Wall can get to unless he's just like a superstar talent to make that money worth it. So they're both overpaid contracts as of right now. But I think the Wizards have a lot of good things they can think about with this trade. I mean, you got, in one idea, you got a guy next to Bradley Beal. You still got a point guard next to him. You got two offensive-oriented guys. I mean, Westbrook is not as much as a playmaker, so we could probably see maybe some effects there. But we definitely know that there are some potentials for playmaking on the Wizards with Denny Advija. Hope, that's what their hope is over there. Maybe some guys like Rui Hachimura, guy who can play make for sure, get him be a shot creator. Davis Bertans being a stretch guy, and even Thomas Bryant being one of their new up and rising young guys who can be a stretch player. He's become that, and he's kind of evolving into that. But yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of upside there. You got the Denny Advija. I don't know if they were really thinking about letting this happen. I think one of the biggest things for their offseason was thinking about what's going to be the future for John Wall. Is John Wall going to be here? I mean, he stated he didn't want to be here, and then they were thinking, we want to amend this relationship. But I guess they've gotten to the point. And the idea is that we want to see, at least, like people were saying, at least let John Wall and Bradley Beal play it out and just see what they can become before you do anything. But it seems like they've kind of seen what the potential of that is, and they're thinking, giving up a pick, it's risky, because if they suck like they have in the past, it gives Houston some draft stock, I guess. But that sounds funny given it's Houston. But at the end of the day, I think this trade isn't going to be... It's kind of interesting. I think the Wizards are going to see more of the upside here from this trade at the moment. I mean, hopefully John Wall can return and become a really... be what he used to be, or something like that. Be a really good two-way player who can score the ball, be one of the best point guards in the NBA, be one of the guys that you want to turn the TV on and see. And yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Kind of a surprising trade given how far we are into the season, into the off season, and how close we are to the start of the season. But yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below, click the bell if you to make sure you don't miss a video, and I'm out.